I'm going to take you through how I like to tie my solid bags. Now inside this bag there's actually a slip D-rig, a small inline lead and then a length of rock bottom tubing. And what I've done to start with is I've taken one of the small dispersed solid bags and I've placed a little bit of ground bait in the bottom, only a tiny bit, like literally less than half an inch, and that serves a couple of purposes. Number one, if your rig's still damp on your lead or around your hook, the ground bait's going to protect it from melting the bag. Number two, it gives you another element of attraction inside your bag, something different to what's already in there with the pellets. And number three, when it comes to the part of folding your corners in, it'll be easier for you to fold the corners in with ground bait and getting all the little nooks and crannies that are left in the air pockets than it will be with the pellets. So that ground bait is actually important. Number two, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to drop my rig and my lead inside the bag. I'm not going to worry too much about where the rig's positioned or placed, because ultimately when that's out in the lake it's going to get dispersed anyway. I'm then going to put another small layer of pellet, and what I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to lift my lead out of that pellet, leaving my rig and hook in place, and just tap down the pellet with the lead. What that's going to do is it's going to trap the hook bait and the hook in position in between the two layers. And it's at this point, if I was going to put, I don't know, maggots or maybe some PVA friendly hemp or tigers or even boilie in the bag, it's at this point to do it in the middle of the bag, because now your hook point's clear and protected in between the pellet and ground bait and it can't get masked. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my lead's dead centre and then keep filling the bag up till it's about 3/4 of the way full. Now it is important in there, I've got a 3-ounce lead and this time it's a flat pair lead. Anything up to sort of 100 yards, that's absolutely fine. I prefer the flat pairs, but you have to make sure that it's directly in the centre of the bag. Otherwise in flight on a decent cast it can wobble. Alternatively, if you are finding that and you're struggling, just change over to a square pair lead. What that'll do is it's a bigger surface area of lead, you'll cover more of the bag and you'll find that maybe the wobbling in flight won't affect you so much. So once that's done, I'll make sure the lead's bang in centre of the bag and I'll just pinch the top of the bag and give it 2 or 3 taps on the palm of my hand. What you're doing at this point is you're shuffling all those little contents and items further down the bag and you'll feel it all compressed nice and tight. Once you've done that, I'm taking some of this dispersed PVA tape, going around 6 or 7 times, wrapping the bag up, and again you'll feel it all start to compress down. Couple of little granny knots to secure that in place and trim your tag end off. After this, I'm turning my bag upside down and I'm literally just nicking the corners of the bag. All that's doing is letting any remaining air out of the bag. Lick and sticking the flap down, and then literally again lick and stick in the corners, and this is where the ground bait's important, because you'll really be able to tuck them in and get all into them little air pockets and be able to pull the corners of your bag over to make your bag really aerodynamic. After that, the last step is literally just to trim off any excess PVA that might be around your tail rubber or around the top of your lead or your tubing. Get rid of that. Obviously the less PVA there, the less the water's got to melt when it's in the lake, and then that will be your finished article of a solid bag. Again, nice and simple, and wherever this lands it will be presented for you. I'm going to talk you through my solid bag rig now. Essentially it's a slip D rig. So what I do first is I take 8 or 9 inches of 25 pound silk flex braid and I double it back on itself. I'll then take a micro hook bait swivel and put that onto where I've doubled it over. Then you take your hook of choice, in this case mine's a size 4 curve. You put the tip of the hook through the loop that you've made and sort of twist the braid back on itself, and just let your hook bait swivel drop down to where your hook is. What you'll find there is that's created your D. You'll then have 2 tag ends, one which is slightly longer than the other one. You want to take the one which is short first. That'll go through the eye of your hook first, through the back of it. You'll then take your hook link side of things. Again, you'll place it back through the eye of the hook. It's at this point where you'll do your normal knotless knot, so you'll go down 6 or 7 times. Once I've done that, I do like to double back and go once, twice, or maybe even 3 times over that knot before I place the line or the braid back through the eye of the hook again. Braid, which is uncoated, has a tendency sometimes, if you don't bed it down properly, to slip, and that's where cut-offs can be created. And by going back over the knot 2 or 3 times, you're just ensuring it beds down nice and tight and a bit more protection really. After that, you're left with a little tagging coming out the eye of your hook. That bit's no good anymore. You just want to trim it as close as you can do without cutting through your hook link material. You can use it without a kicker, or you can use it without shrink tube with that. I've done it before, absolutely fine, but I like to neaten things up. I've got a bit of OCD with that. So in this case, I've got a kicker. Shrink tube's absolutely fine as well. Once that's done, I'm then left with 6 or 7 inches of braid. And again, I like my rigs to be around 4 to 5 inches. I've found to be the perfect length, which is just short enough for, say, the smaller fish, the doubles and your singles, to fly in and pick you off. It's also long enough for the bigger fish if they want a bit more rope to hang themselves. And what I've done there is I've done a figure of 8 loop knot. I've made the loop quite big so I can loop to loop my rigs on, and with doing it quite big, you can already mount your hook bait onto your rig or onto the micro hook bait swivel. Once that's done, I'll then take a small bit of rock bottom putty, and what I'll do then is I'll rub it up and down the hook link. Supple braid does have a tendency to sort of get air pockets in it, and when it's under the water, you can imagine that braid's gone in the bag nice and dry. As soon as the water starts to attack the braid, it can start to lift up off the bottom, which is the last thing you want when you've got all your contents of the bag around your sort of lead and everything in a nice close little knit pile. So what I've done is I've weaved that up and down, and that's just going to ensure that putty is weaved in between the braid, so it's nice, it'll be nailed to the bottom. There's no need to leave any putty on the actual hook link myself, because if you imagine you've got 2 or 3 blobs of putty on there, when you're moulding your bag with all those little pellets and stuff, the pellets are just going to stick to it. It's going to be able to come off anyway. So by doing that, you ensure your hook link's always nice and flat. So yeah, it's essentially a slip D rig, but the hook to landfish ratio with this rig for me has been incredible. Over the last sort of 18 months, I've lost 2 or 3 fish. It's been absolutely brilliant. Again, hook choice is just personal preference at the minute. The size 4 curves are really doing it for me. I'm sure if you give this rig a go, it'll land you a few fish too.